Hello, Kansas City. Welcome to another wonderful day out there. You're joining us today for a show called Life After, a show that explores the stories that happen right after high school and probably don't stop until people are done with their lives. So what's really fun and an unbelievable chance to check up and find out how people have been doing. We started this during the pandemic and it's really not been stopping. I think we're up to maybe 50 or 60 of these little episodes. So joining us today is another wonderful person I had a chance to work with back at Paseo Academy. Welcome, Lucas Piercy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Okay, Lucas. So the first thing we do to jump into this fun is to get that year that you remember the most, your final year at Paseo, kind of explore that year a little bit. What do you remember or what you take away from that experience? Because I remember it very well. I know you were really involved in all kinds of things. I can remember you portraying characters. I can remember you doing your own work. I can remember you doing music. I can remember all kinds of film, a particular field trip where we went to Parkville where you made like a documentary of us going underground. And so I remember all these amazing artistic crafts during your time at Paseo. What do you remember?
Yeah, all those things. Yeah, definitely like all the theater and definitely all the videography stuff that I was into. Those were the two main things. Yeah, and I graduated 2011.
2011. So tell me a little bit about like when you say you were into those things, what was your life like during being a Paseo student working on some of those things?
So definitely with acting, we worked a lot with Miss Connor while she was still there, because she was there for many years, but like in my time there, she had ended her time there. So a lot of time that I remember was being spent in her classroom, either reading plays or rehearsing. And then the other things I remember most are being in Mr. McClendon's class, doing the videography stuff and editing videos and stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember those too. And he himself being a documentary style, kind of nonfiction style filmmaker. And then, yeah, we got to work with him. I got to know him some myself. Fantastic. Okay, so you really were immersed in those two things, and which makes us kind of curious if that's what you're still doing today. But let's explore that in a minute. Tell me, you got done with Paseo. We had this graduation ceremony. And do you remember the moments just right after that? Because to me, that's the favorite thing to explore in these interviews. What did that feel like? And then what moves did you make or try to make or eventually make?
Yeah, there was definitely that feeling of like excited freedom, time to go out into the world. I graduated a year early, so I took a year off, took a gap year. So I just was like doing theater and applying to colleges.
Great. How many, you did a bunch of shows or a couple shows when you in between that gap year? Do you remember it real well?
I did like I was in A Christmas Carol for the Rep, and Pride and Prejudice for the Met. I think I did. I was in Titus too for the Living Room Theater. Wow. That was the last one I did before heading out.
Very cool. Who'd you play in the Christmas Carol?
Snuff. I think I had like 3 lines and then just ensemble member. Yeah, it was a great time.
Very cool. And so I know, does Marin still work over there? Do you know Marin Barron? She was part of KC Rep maybe after your time.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I met her or not.
We'll have to find her. She's over there now, I know, and she's working like on staff there. So
cool.
Did you get to go to some of those KC Rep plays that Miss Connor and everybody, we took a lot of students to those?
Yes, yeah, that was like usually like the most theater that I would see in Kansas City, other than like the plays I was in.
I remember, luckily, like student matinees, we'd see them in the mornings, and we'd have our own, production, and the cast and directors and everybody come talk to us. Did you get to participate in some of those?
Yeah, I got to be there for the Q&As. I thought that was one of the coolest things that we were able to do, talk to the actors and really see what was on their minds about the show.
Gotcha. Yeah, a little extra insight for the people who are really working on their craft in the audience, and that was you. So that's fantastic. Okay, so you did this
Yeah.
gap year, and then what? Sounds like a very busy gap year, really artistic gap year. That wasn't just like a break, right? That
Right.
was that was very full of things to do. And then what came from there?
After that, I had auditioned for Juilliard and DePaul's theater school in Chicago. So I got into DePaul,
Wow.
and you want me just to go into like the whole story, the whole?
Yeah, you can just kind of rail it out if you remember it kind of in order, little bits and
Okay.
pieces. But sounds so you got into a school that you really looked forward to getting into,
Yeah.
and probably an
Yeah.
expensive school.
It was expensive.
Yeah.
Yes. I had to rely on a lot of loans, and they still exist.
Yes. Yes.
So
Okay.
it goes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you jumped in, you went for it. So tell us
Yeah.
about that. What was that experience like? How was it like, or similar to Paseo, I guess?
Yeah. My experience was really unexpected. I was met with a lot of things at once, and I actually kind of had like I had like kind of a mental health crisis. I had like a mental breakdown.
Mm.
But I also was able to, what kind of met with that was, we had teachers who invited us to kind of look at the spiritual path and the spiritual seeking, and those two things kind of existed together at the same time. Yeah, so I kind of just pushed through my first year and decided to leave there after my first year.
I see.
Yeah.
Big decision. Okay, so that wasn't quite the fit. There was a lot going on that understandably, I stayed at the first college I went to for a year and a half and discovered I really didn't connect with some of the people on that campus, and that a lot of the issues I thought I could just ignore, I couldn't, and they were often race related and things like that. So I totally understand. You never know until you get there and get involved. So then what happened, I guess, after you made your next move?
After that, I went to a school in Boulder, Colorado called Naropa. It's like a Buddhist-inspired school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was there to learn some things about meditation and contemplative learning.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was only there for a semester. My dad died, so I came back home, and the next 7 years since were kind of like a blur of trying different things,
Hmm.
to see what kind of guides me toward healing from this major change. Because my dad was he was my strongest pillar, like my best friend, biggest supporter of acting. So it was a really hard thing. Yeah, so I tried a lot of things.
Yeah, respect to you and your family, and thank you for
Thank you.
including that in your story, because we don't ever plan for those, but that's part of what we do and we keep going. I have some family and kind of having trouble with their health right now, and so I'm reflecting hard listening to you. Okay, so you're big part of that was your dad, and you're pushing through this again, finding ways to get back to being grounded and feeling okay again. And then you said that kind of you felt like took like 7 years. Do you remember when you started to feel different, that something was going forward again, or the way you were looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, it really, I feel like the experience of trying to come full circle and like come to a place of wholeness and healing really started when I was at DePaul, before, even before that loss, because I knew I wanted to reach a point where I sort of returned to the stage, or came back again in a way where I felt whole. So yeah, there were a lot of spots throughout where there were highlights, of course, and like moments where I got to see the divine in action, and to kind of meet love in that way.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, you became a little more spiritual than I remember you after Paseo days. Huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's really neat. And so again, we're doing life after, and so I've only remembered Lucas from little moments that I got to know him barely back in the day, and really interesting to explore that a little bit further. And not a topic we explore all the time in traditional school, right? It's just something we talk about only on one day a week, and it's not even attached to school often. So very interesting. Okay, so did you go further in that pursuit? You want to kind of bring us up to the things that led you to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I was I tried going back to DePaul for a semester. That didn't work out.
Hmm.
And then after that, I kind of was going back and forth between being in Kansas City and traveling. And that kind of got to be a way for me to continue seeking and searching, finding new things about myself and continuing to ask those bigger questions. Like one fun thing I got to do was volunteer farming. There's this organization called Worldwide Opportunities for Organic Farming. It's spelled like woof, like a dog barking.
I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So,
Wolf.org. Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool. I bet they get confused a lot for dog related.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Anytime I tell people about it, they're like, wolf? Who? I don't, yeah. But yeah, basically you would farm and get room and board for that. So yeah, I think I was kind of on a track of like, maybe I'm going to keep traveling. Maybe I'll have a Forrest Gump life.
Yeah.
So I tried one farm and it was like this community setting, bunch of hippies, permaculture. And that was really special. And I got to kind of see how I am within a group setting. What is my role that I play? You know, when you're in a smaller group, you can kind of find that. And then the only other farm I went to was in upstate New York. The other one was in California. And I was the only farmer there.
Wow.
And so it was a weird experience, not typical for like the wolf experience, but I think the thing that was like the most spiritual kind of is like the most physical, which is kind of funny. They had a few animals on the farm, and they had this massive pig. So like at the end of each night, I had to like put the chickens away, and this massive pig is inside the pig pen, and I just feel kind of bad for it. Like I just know that it seems lonely. So every once in a while I'd try to pet it, even though I knew that if it tried to bite me, it could just tear off my hand. So one day I decided one time I tried to pet it and it ran into the electric fence and it freaked out. So I was like, maybe I'll just turn off the electric fence and then try to, just get a little pet. And it hops over the fence and chases me down. And I was in fear for my life.
Oh my gosh. Big
yeah,
pig.
It was intense. Thankfully, the people, the owners came out and stopped the pig and got it distracted. But I told that story just to kind of bring up the fact that like the most intense spiritual realization from that was like, it's not about having some big, wild, amazing, successful life. It's not about having a Forrest Gump, big fish travel story. It's about the people that you love and that you want to connect with and be around. So that's what brought me back to Kansas City. And now I'm just kind of settling into my apartment and going from there.
Very cool. Awesome. So what are you doing to keep yourself afloat? Are you taking some odd jobs here and there? Are you working one in particular? I know we can't all survive on hopes and dreams, unfortunately, but I wish we could, man. It would be such a different world. But
it would be nice.
Yeah. The dreamers would feel very rewarded for that. So
that's true. They would. Yeah. I worked at Park University for a little bit. I was like a building attendant, and then I left there. And then I've been kind of just job hopping lately. So currently I'm slinging pizzas at Domino's, going out and delivering them. That's my current way of making dough.
Gotcha. And you have other goals. So like what's coming up in your mind while you're doing that? I'm sure it's not the stage of enlightenment that you're really working toward is enlightenment plus pizza smells and
right
stuff. So
yeah,
what are you thinking toward your next move if you're kind of contemplating that? Or doesn't have to be that we know for sure that's the coolest part about life, it just kind of goes. But sure. Have you had some thoughts about your next moves or what you want to try?
Yeah. So it's become less important to focus solely on the enlightenment stuff and more just on like being here and enjoying what I'm here to enjoy, but also saying what I'm here to say. So I do feel like I have something to say after the past 9 years. So I'm working on a play.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool. You got a concept? Is it something you can share with us that we won't steal, or you want to keep it secret?
I got to keep it secret for now.
All right.
Keep it under wraps, but
I respect that. That's why I knew to ask, being the writing teacher I was for so long. We don't want to just throw it out there and have somebody else borrow it. Because I swear I've had a couple ideas that I've seen later. They don't come from me, but I wished I did them back when I thought of them. So
yeah, I can appreciate that.
Let's ask you this: what kind of comment are you trying to make, if at all, in this play? Like back to the world, or about the world, or
yeah, I think it would be that it's not always about the dreams or the expectations that you have. Those can get in the way of enjoying your reality that's right in front of you.
Really cool, man. I want to come see that. Okay, so you're well into it. Are you just kind of in conceptual stage, or where are you with this awesome project?
Well, so writing became like a really important thing for me back at DePaul. It was like one of my biggest things of like, it really helped me. So like I've been writing in journals since, so I have a lot of scattered pieces, but the pieces are starting to come together. So I'm just working on the puzzle right now, but I've got the basic overarching ideas.
We ever need a creative thinker, shoot me a question or two, or I'd love to see an early version or a draft or a concept. It's fun. I promise I wouldn't take over, but yeah, I get a little spark, and man, some things just start running in my head. It's fun to dialogue on those things. So
for sure.
Okay, so you got a play in the works. That's really awesome. You're writing a lot. You're doing some of that kind of personal journaling, and kind of, I'm doing a lot of those same things. I didn't just tell people to do it most of my teaching career, but I was doing it too. It's really, and it doesn't just go away. Like, you need to keep doing it because it's satisfying something. And then when you stop, you can tell, right? I can too, the outpouring, the welling out of these things that we want to keep allowing them to come out. So that's fantastic. I'm glad you found writing as both a artistic and a healer. Okay, so you're kind of on the crux of some big decisions and some goals, and happy with the day-to-day, which is really, an awesome goal. It sounds like a lot of what you've been telling us is loaded with potential advice, which we are kind of at that part of the end. And I bet you're the guy that's going to say, I don't want to tell anybody how to live their life, but
I love telling people how to live their life. No, I love giving advice. That's fun.
All right, well then this would be the part. What do you think the wisdom we could carry with us that you've been learning, that other young people watching? Because this show's also about finding your path, but also the path doesn't just show up all of a sudden, all at once, right? So I love the example here is that whether it's delayed, whether it's always there, whether it's, the one that you're on right now to get to the next one, you're currently on a path, right? And as long as you're very happy with it, it sounds like a great pursuit. What advice do you take from what you've experienced, or maybe what you heard back then at that school, or who knows? I know I've heard people tell me they've quoted Mr. Naves and all these other various teachers who were just loaded with wisdom. Do you remember any of those wise words from Connor, or from anybody you kind of still regard as really influential in your life?
Yeah, I think that something that Miss Connor had said, or kind of inspired us to see, is like the magic of the theater. And the point of that to me was to see that, what she was letting us know is that the art will be made. The art will come through. It has a life of its own. It's as though there's some sort of spiritual element to it. It wants to come through, and it's just up to us to let it through. But I think advice kind of jumping off from that really would be that everybody's going to have their own trajectory and their own mountains to walk up, and not everybody's life is going to look the same, and a lot of these times and dates that we have set for ourselves are arbitrary a lot of times.
Thank you for saying that, as I'm so old all of a sudden, and the number in my brain, which is going to turn 4 here pretty soon, is a
numbers mean nothing.
Okay, I'm going to keep that in my mind. This means nothing.
Number.
None of that stuff means anything. It's all just
it means something, but yeah.
I do like your hair. I'm jealous.
Thank you.
And I always look forward like I would always have it, which, let me tell you, not so much. So yeah, paths change. You roll with them, folks. Young people, you're hearing really good advice. How about this? Final question. What's something you'd want to say to Kansas City? Because what's really fun, and I get to shout out to the city, shout out to Kansas City right here in the corner, right? place I've lived my entire life and still love it here. What do you think the city needs to hear right now? All these things we've been thinking about, living through, trying to remain positive, trying to be proud of our community, even though it's, riddled with problems and violence and all kinds of, unfortunate challenges that just do seem to return every year as part of living here. Not to say you shouldn't move here and make an awesome life here, but a lot of urban communities face those same struggles, and you hear about it on a regular basis. You don't hear enough stories about people succeeding. So what do you think you would like to say to that city, KC, that might be listening right now?
I would say that no matter how much the darkness rises, no matter how much the evil seems to be taking over our lives or our country or our city, that the light rises equally, and that we don't have to be afraid of things going wrong. I think things are going to get better.
Very cool. I would agree with that. And I would say that this is a very artistic city. And so hearing how you were in 3 plays, hearing how you're writing one, I could see you. Are you going to get back in some other people's productions? Because I got a chance to play live music here once or twice or maybe 4 times in my life, but who's counting? And I was amazed I didn't know about the real not in school arts community that exists for live musicians, for poets, I knew about it, but I didn't know how vast and how powerful. I mean, but Kansas City's on the map when it comes to artsy towns these days.
Yes.
And I'm really, I'm proud of that. And I wonder if some of our students really realize, but yeah, if you're listening, people in Kansas City, be proud, go out and support some of our amazing artists. And so that would be my little bit of suggestion for the listeners. But Lucas, it's been awesome catching up with you, man. Look forward to hearing about your play and touching base on that. Steel Magnolias is at Paseo, I think, this weekend. If cool. So you are in the city, right?
I am.
You are. Okay. Well, don't be a stranger. Paseo's, always open to visitors. I don't work there anymore, but I guarantee they'd be intrigued to hear you come back and tell your story as well. And if you're listening to this show, people out there in Kansas City, and would like to come on and also share your story, the goal is to continue to show more paths to young people so that as they make their choices, they see the limitless options sometimes that you may not think when you're coming out of school. We also know that sometimes we hear, more of a closed book than an open book about what opportunities might exist. So Lucas, it's been awesome catching up and talking to you. I remember your artistry and I can hear and see it now. And I'm excited it's still like the major part of your life. And I look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you, Mr. Odam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Kansas City, thanks for listening.
Kansas City.
We're signing off.
See you.